All right, we got Kelly Bennett, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News. Hey, Kelly.
Good morning, guys. Happy Friday.
All right, thanks for coming on. So we've had a rather busy week, certainly in the state of Mississippi, but we've really had a busy week on the national scene. What do you got for us today?
I just don't think there's such thing as a slow news day anymore.
I think that's right.
This doesn't happen. So the port strike came to an end yesterday. That was some really good news. So you've got 450,000 dock workers at ports along the East Coast and Gulf Coast getting back to work. Now, in some cases, they were saying it would take up to 24 hours to get a port operational that had been shut down. But, thankfully, we were looking at the possibility of supply chain issues, not being able to find things in stores. And that's not something you want on top of the devastation that you're seeing from Hurricane Helene right now. I mean, North Carolina, other states, they're still in there rescuing people from mountaintops.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you get the news this morning that FEMA has been spending their money on illegal migrants instead of disasters. And Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas came out and said FEMA doesn't have enough money to make it through the rest of the hurricane season. Well, the hurricane season lasts through November 30th. I think you could tell people in the southern states being impacted right now, you can't just say, man, you're out of luck. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a sad situation. I know a lot of people are frustrated about that this morning. On the bright side, you have members of the Mississippi Task Force back in the Magnolia State after helping out with recovery from Helene. They were on standby in the Florida Panhandle before the storm made landfall and worked alongside FEMA and other organizations doing search and rescue operations and checking on people at their homes. And what they basically did, this team, the Mississippi Task Force, was in touch with emergency operations centers locally in the area. So they relayed to them what the needs were as they went through these communities, seeing trees down, that roads blocked. They mapped it off for them and allowed the guys to come in that could actually fix that situation. So what they did was really important. And, of course, that doesn't even include all the power company crews and utility crews that have been helping out after the storm, and volunteers that I'm sure are involved in a lot of these organizations as well, like the Red Cross that gets sent in after these situations.
Yeah. Well, Mississippi, of course, Mississippians in general are very generous and charitable, and of course, lots of our neighbors in other states come to our aid whenever we experience these sorts of natural disasters. So not surprising that Mississippi is stepping in to help here.
Yeah, and I've got to say, as a Katrina survivor, a lot of these people that are saying they don't see FEMA, well, FEMA doesn't necessarily go to you. You go to them for help after a natural disaster. It's really your local guys and your neighbors that get you out of the immediate danger, and then FEMA comes in with low-interest loans from the SBA and that kind of stuff. So I understand a lot of the frustration. I did see this morning, I think it's in the state of Tennessee, the National Guard has been flying in to rescue people off the mountaintops. I may have the state wrong there, Gerard, but anyway, this kind of stuff, you don't necessarily hear about it. They just go in and get it done. So I'm just urging Americans in general, be patient. This is a huge disaster.
Yeah. You know, the thing about the FEMA running out of money and people, again, as I said on the show a couple of segments ago, they're understandably upset that our government has all this money going to illegal migrants that is there and earmarked to provide assistance to Americans in their time of need when they experience disasters such as Hurricane Helene. But the reality is the federal government's never out of money. This really isn't a function of we just don't have any money to send. This is a function of mismanagement. And I think it's almost intentional. Well, we're going to prioritize illegals here because we're just compassionate and humane and that sort of stuff, without really thinking through, we might actually need the money that Congress appropriated to us if we experience a disaster the scale and scope of Helene.
Well, and as Americans, we don't have an opportunity to go through our budget and go, oh, well, I put that money aside for my power bill this month, but let me go out and have some fun and maybe pay the tab for a big bunch of us at the club this weekend instead. I mean, it's just Americans, I understand their frustration with the government not spending their money where they intended it to be spent. And at the end of the day, we had the big VP debate this week. That was another big story. I just think Americans are frustrated in general with the amount of money the government is spending and where they're spending it.
Yeah, I think you're right. What was your take on the policy summit that really focused on tax reform in the state of Mississippi? This was held by Speaker of the House Jason White a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I thought Speaker White made a really great point when he talked about the importance of having this summit before the legislative session, which isn't until January officially. But, he talked about the fact that a lot of times when the legislature convenes, they have so much that they want to get done that these long bills, like the possibility of tax cuts, don't get done because they say, like, it's a 400-page bill. We don't have time to get through there. And that's why it's so important that they have these tax summits right now, these meetings on women's health issues, which are constantly ongoing, and all these other meetings. I think our legislature really does a great job of tackling as much of an issue before the legislative session as they can. And that way, when they go into session, everybody is already on the same page, possibly.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. And I said that yesterday with the speaker on the program, that just applauding him for organizing this event and taking a lot of time to focus on these key issues, bringing in some experts. It was well attended and also included lots of members of the legislature that wanted to learn and understand and be part of the process as well. And that's outside of the session. You just can't do all that during the session, no doubt about it. Milwaukee Tools in Grenada, an announcement there the governor is touting. Tell us about that.
This is great news. Milwaukee Tools officially opened its $60 million manufacturing center in Grenada. I'll get to the good points. So we're talking about 800 employees at this plant. Over the past 5 years, the company has invested more than $250 million in the state. They now employ over 4,000 people in Mississippi.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, it kind of makes me laugh because the name of the company is Milwaukee Tools, but it feels like maybe they ought to rename it Mississippi Tools because they're so invested in our state. But if you're in that area and you're looking for work, or maybe you're just looking for a job that pays you a little more, you can log on to SuperTalk.fm, and we've got the links and all that information.
Fantastic. Kelly, always good talking to you. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks a lot, guys.
We're stepping aside for a break.